Hello and welcome to day 151. We will be working our way through Proverbs chapters 16 through 18 and Romans chapter 12. So Proverbs starts with some wisdom and instruction about the balance that we should be looking for between ourselves and God. That we are reminded that God gets the final word, and that when we focus too much on what we want and our desires, we often end up doing something that is not blessed by God and ends up falling apart in the end. We also have some sections on the wisdom for leaders and people who are in leadership positions. Now, one of the things to think about as we're going through here is that we have some instruction about God's role in wise decisions, but a lot of this, the big goal is social harmony. That life's decisions aren't just personal, but affect and influence the community around us as well. So we need to be thinking about what is my decision going to do for myself, but also what impact is my decision going to have on the people around me. In chapter 17, we have some verses on family behavior, and we've got some ideas of honor and shame here. When you have a culture that is more focused on community, honor and shame that affects the whole family or a neighborhood is very important, more so than when we're in an individualistic culture where we focus mostly on just the personal. So our choices within families, just like in the last chapter, also have impacts beyond ourselves. Chapter 18 looks at proper speech again and good personal relationships. As we move into chapter 12 of Romans, I think we're going to see that Paul is influenced by the teachings of Proverbs. He would have known them very well from his own training as a child and a student and a young adult. And he is really following in this tradition of wise instruction. And as we're going through Romans, we're going to see a number of places where there's some instruction about how to live together, how to be in community, how to make decisions that are good for many people and not just for yourself. So Romans 12 is being directed at a new community of believers that's trying to figure out how to live together. It's a growing community. Each believer is encouraged by Paul to experience the transformation that Jesus offers. The first section reminds us not to give in to the world, but to be transformed by renewing our minds, which means, are we regularly studying? Are we reading the Bible? Do we know what God has said? And are we giving ourselves as an offering to God's work in the world today? We are reminded to remember that each person has different skills and abilities. It's easy for the early church to bicker over differences, and for some people to hold themselves as higher status because of wealth or because of some previous connection or national origin, whatever. But we are reminded to be humble. God has given the gift of faith to each person, and we are to love believers as we love our family. This is, I think, a big thing that we often struggle with these days. We really put a huge value on our personal relationships within our family, but when we are willing to give that same level of loyalty and commitment to people outside our family, that is really what Paul is talking about here. So we should be giving that level of commitment to the people in the church and to our neighbors. And then there's some nice little short instructions here about being happy, being cheerful, being enthusiastic, welcoming strangers, giving so that you can help others, praying without ceasing, pray, showing respect. Again, there's a sense of Proverbs in here where you're getting a list of wisdom, of ways to live with wisdom, and ways to improve social harmony, live at peace with others, care for the enemy. So as we're going through here, remember, Paul is instructing the early church how to live together. And I think the real challenge for us as we're going through this chapter is there a phrase, is there a sentence that really kind of hits our heart, that tugs at us, that says, hey, you're not really in this place yet. Maybe you should be accepting some of this wisdom and moving forward in this area. So as you read this, and maybe you want to go back and read it a second time, go through and kind of underline the sections that really jump out at you, because there might be something that the Holy Spirit is trying to nudge you on. So use this as a way to let the Holy Spirit open you up to some new choices for your life. And we'll see you next time.